Captain Jun-Ho Park shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The chair was not made for human bodies. It was too wide, too soft, and curved in all the wrong places. But that was the least of his worries right now. The Grand Council chamber fell silent as Grand Emissary Velox rose from his seat. Velox was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the bright lights. His 4 eyes, 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones above, scanned the room carefully. Jun-Ho looked around at the 17 different alien representatives. Some had scales, some had fur, some had too many eyes, others had none at all. This was his first time at a Galactic Council meeting, and Earth's first year having a seat at the table. Esteemed members of the Council, Velox began, his voice deep and clear. I come before you today with a grave warning. The room, already quiet, grew even more still. Jun-Ho felt a chill run down his spine. It has come to the attention of the Council elders that several member species have been attempting to recruit our newest members. Velox's upper eyes focused directly on Jun-Ho, specifically humans. Murmurs filled the chamber. Jun-Ho sat up straighter, suddenly very alert. Let me be absolutely clear, Velox continued, raising his long, 6-fingered hands. This must stop immediately. Humans must not be involved in any conflicts between council races. They must not be hired as soldiers. They must not be asked to take sides in wars. A representative with green scales and a head like a lizard stood up. The honorable emissary speaks of things that do not concern all of us. Why bring this to the full council? Because, Representative Thex, Velox said sharply, what begins as a private arrangement often ends as a galactic problem. He turned to address the whole room again. Many of you see humans as merely another bipedal species, similar to the Vorn or the Quiller. This is a dangerous mistake. Jun-Ho felt the eyes of the council members turn to him. Some looked curious, others worried, and a few seemed hungry. It made him uneasy. 3 weeks ago, Velox continued, a human peacekeeping team was caught in the conflict between the Atraxians and the Morvellians. What happened next is why I stand before you today. The large screen behind Velox lit up, showing images that made Jun-Ho's blood run cold. 5 humans, clearly standard UN peacekeepers, were fighting against forces with technology far beyond Earth's capabilities. And the humans were winning. 5 humans, Velox said quietly. 5. They destroyed 2 Morvellian battle cruisers, disabled an Atraxian defense network, and forced both sides into a temporary ceasefire. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Jun-Ho stared at the screen in disbelief. He had heard nothing about this from Earth Command. Velox waited for the noise to die down before speaking again. Humans evolved on a death world. Their bodies can endure incredible damage and keep fighting. Their minds can process threats with frightening speed. And most concerning of all, Velox paused, his voice dropping lower. They have no natural limits in conflict. Most species know when to stop. Humans do not. The lizard-like Thex spoke again. You exaggerate, emissary. They are physically weaker than half the species in this room. And yet, Velox replied, they have survived over 100 wars among themselves. They have weapons designed specifically to kill their own kind in the most efficient ways possible. They call their homeworld Earth, a paradise compared to many council worlds. Yet they have turned it into a training ground for conflict. Jun-Ho wanted to object, to defend humanity, but the words caught in his throat, because Velox wasn't entirely wrong. The council officially warns all members, Velox concluded, do not involve humans in your wars. Because if you do, those wars will become something else entirely, something none of us are prepared for. As the meeting continued, Jun-Ho noticed several representatives stealing glances at him, some with fear in their eyes, others with plans. Eun-Kai checked her equipment one last time. The shuttle hummed quietly around her. This was supposed to be a simple mission: visit the Atraxian homeworld, attend some meetings, and strengthen ties between Earth and the alien civilization. Nothing more. Status report, she said, looking at her small team. Tae-Won Kim, the security chief, nodded. All weapons secured but accessible. Not that we'll need them. Never hurts to be ready, Yeon-ki replied. She had served in the Korean military for 15 years before joining the UN Interstellar Peacekeeping Force. Always prepare for the worst, she believed. Hae-Nul Choi looked up from his communication station. Captain, I'm picking up unusual transmissions. What kind of unusual? Yeon-ki asked, moving to his side. Military codes. Lots of them. Hae-Nul's fingers moved quickly over his screen. Something's happening. The shuttle pilot, a young woman named Yuri, suddenly grabbed the controls tighter. Captain, we're being pulled off course. By who? Yeon-ki demanded. I don't know, but Yuri was cut off as the shuttle shook violently. The lights flickered. Tractor beam. Very powerful. Yeon-ki grabbed a handhold as the shuttle changed direction sharply. Through the viewport, she saw that they were no longer headed toward the gleaming Atraxian capital city. Instead, they were being pulled toward a region covered in dark smoke. That's a war zone, Tae-Won said quietly, pointing at the explosions visible even from their height. Hae-Nul, send an emergency message to Earth Command, Yeon-ki ordered. Tell them we're being diverted into an active conflict area. Hae-Nul tried, but shook his head. All communications are being blocked. Another violent shake threw them all against their restraints. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. Brace for crash landing. Yuri shouted, fighting with the controls. The shuttle plunged through thick black clouds. Yeon-ki saw flashes of weapons fire all around them. This was no small conflict. This was a full-scale war. Everyone, emergency positions, she yelled as the ground rushed up to meet them. The impact came hard. Yeon-ki's head hit the wall despite her restraints. Everything went black. She woke to the smell of burning metal and the sound of strange voices. Yeon-ki kept her eyes closed and stayed still, assessing her situation first. Old military habit. All dead, said a voice that wasn't human. The translator in her ear converted the alien language to English. Unfortunate. They were not targets. The Morvellians don't care, said another voice. Their tractor beams pull down anything in the area. Yeon-ki carefully opened one eye. 2 Atraxians, tall, 4-armed beings with silver skin, were examining the shuttle wreckage. They hadn't noticed she was awake. We should report this to command, the first Atraxian said. Humans involved now. Complications. No time. Morvellian squad approaching. We must move. The Atraxians hurried away, leaving Yeon-ki alone in the damaged shuttle. Once they were gone, she sat up slowly, checking herself for injuries. Just bruises and a cut on her forehead. Lucky. Status, she whispered. Alive, came Tae-Won's voice from nearby. He was hidden under a fallen panel. Yuri is unconscious but breathing. Hae-Nul. Here, Captain. Hae-Nul emerged from the back of the shuttle, blood streaking his face. I heard everything. They think we're dead. Good, Yeon-ki said. Let's keep it that way for now. She looked out through a crack in the shuttle wall. The landscape outside was like nothing she had seen before. Purple trees broken and burning. Strange buildings in ruins. 2 suns low in the sky. Where are we? Hae-Nul asked. In the middle of someone else's war, Yeon-ki replied grimly. And from what I heard, both sides use technology far beyond ours. She turned to her team. First priority, tend to Yuri. Second, salvage whatever we can from the shuttle. Third, find a defensive position. And then, Tae-Won asked. Yeon-ki's face hardened. Then we survive long enough to find a way home. Outside, the sound of weapons fire grew closer. Night fell quickly on the alien world. Yeon-ki watched as the 2 suns dipped below the horizon, leaving them in near total darkness. The team had moved away from the crashed shuttle, finding shelter in a half-destroyed building about a kilometer away. "Yuri is awake," Taiwan reported, coming from the back room where they had set up a makeshift medical area. "She has a broken arm, but she'll live." Yun-Ki nodded. "Good. What about our supplies?" Hanul spread out their salvaged items on the floor. "We have emergency rations for 2 weeks. 2 working pistols with limited ammo. 4 emergency beacons, but they're useless with the communication block. Some medical supplies. And these." He held up 3 small devices. Atraxian communicators. I took them from the shuttle's welcome package. "Can you make them work?" Yun-Ki asked. Hanul smiled slightly. "Already have. I can't understand their language, but I can recognize patterns in their communications. The Morvellians are pushing hard into this sector." Taiwan looked impressed. "How did you figure that out so quickly?" "I don't need to understand the words to understand the meaning," Hanul explained. "The frequency of transmissions, the repeated sounds, the urgency in their voices, it all tells a story." A loud explosion shook their shelter. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're getting closer," Yun-Ki said, moving to the window. Through a crack in the wall, she could see flashes of light in the distance. "We need tow." She stopped suddenly, dropping to the floor. "Get down," she hissed. The others flattened themselves against the floor just as a bright light swept over the building. Outside, they heard the heavy footsteps of what could only be soldiers. 6 of them, Taiwan whispered, peering through a hole in the wall. "Morvellians, I think." Yun-Ki had seen images of Morvellians before. They were large, with thick gray skin and 3 arms, strong but slow. She made a quick decision. "We can't run," she whispered. "And we can't let them find us. Taiwan, with me." Before Hanul could protest, Yun-Ki and Taiwan slipped out the back of the building. They circled around silently, using the darkness as cover. The Morvellian soldiers were searching the area methodically, their weapons glowing with strange energy. They hadn't noticed the humans yet. Yun-Ki signaled to Taiwan, using the hand movements they had practiced countless times on Earth. He nodded, understanding immediately. They struck at the same time, moving faster than the aliens could track. Yun-Ki used her combat knife, aiming for what she hoped was a vulnerable spot at the base of the Morvellian's neck. It worked. The alien fell without a sound. Taiwan took down another one just as quietly. The other 4 Morvellians turned, finally aware of the attack. They raised their weapons, but the humans were already moving again. Yun-Ki rolled under the blast from the nearest soldier, coming up inside his reach. The Morvellian tried to grab her with its 3 arms, but she was too quick. She struck again with her knife, then dove away as the alien crashed to the ground. Taiwan had disabled another one, but took a glancing hit from an energy weapon. His uniform smoked where the blast had grazed him. The last 2 Morvellians backed away, now clearly afraid. They fired wildly into the darkness. Yun-Ki and Taiwan used the confusion to strike again, taking down the soldiers before they could call for help. When it was over, Yun-Ki checked Taiwan's injury. "Just a burn," he said, wincing. "Their aim is terrible." "No," Yun-Ki replied, looking at the fallen aliens. "They're not used to targets that move as fast as humans do." Hanul joined them, his eyes wide as he took in the scene. "You took down 6 armed Morvellian soldiers with just knives. They weren't expecting us," Yun-Ki said, already gathering the alien weapons. "Next time will be harder. But now we have better equipment." She handed a Morvellian weapon to Hanul. "We adapt. We survive. We find a way home. That's the plan." As they dragged the aliens' bodies away from their shelter, Yun-Ki noticed something. The Morvellians had recording devices on their uniforms, which meant someone would see what had happened here. Someone would know that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. 3 days passed. The human team moved through the war zone carefully, avoiding most patrols and fighting only when necessary. They collected more alien weapons and learned how to use them through trial and error. Yuri's arm was healing faster than expected thanks to the medical supplies they had salvaged. Movement ahead, Ta-1 whispered, crouching behind a fallen purple tree. A large group. Imki used the viewing device they had taken from a Morvellian soldier. Through it, she could see about 20 Atraxians moving toward a cluster of buildings. They were not soldiers but looked like civilians, with children among them. "They're being pursued," Haynul said, listening to his captured communicator. "Morvellian forces are closing in from the east." Imki faced a difficult choice. Their mission was to stay hidden and find a way home, not get involved in this war. But she couldn't ignore civilians in danger. "We're helping them," she decided. "Ta-1, you and I will create a diversion to draw off the Morvellian forces. Haynul, you and Yuri guide the civilians to safety." They moved quickly to put the plan into action. Yun-Ki and Ta-1 circled around to the east, setting explosive charges from their captured weapons in a pattern designed to look like a much larger force. When the charges went off, the effect was better than they had hoped. The Morvellian patrol immediately turned toward the explosions, away from the civilians. As Yun-Ki and Ta-1 led the Morvellians on a chase through the ruins, Haynul and Yuri reached the Atraxian civilians. At first, the aliens were afraid of the strange humans, but Yuri's gentle manner and Haynul's limited ability to communicate using the Atraxian device helped calm them. The plan worked perfectly until a second Morvellian patrol appeared, cutting off Yun-Ki and Ta-1's escape route. "We're trapped," Ta-1 said, looking at the approaching enemies. There were too many to fight. Just as the Morvellians closed in, bright energy beams cut through the air, hitting the alien soldiers. Atraxian fighters had arrived. In the confusion, Yun-Ki and Ta-1 slipped away, rejoining Haynul and Yuri with the civilians. They had led the group to a secure underground structure. An Atraxian stepped forward. Unlike the others, this one wore an elaborate uniform with markings that suggested high rank. "I am Commander Shori," the alien said through a translation device. "You are the humans from the crashed shuttle. We thought you were dead." "Not yet," Yun-Ki replied cautiously. Shori's 4 arms moved in what might have been a gesture of respect. "You saved these civilians when you had no reason to help. We have been watching you since you disabled the Morvellian patrol 3 days ago." "Impressive." "We're peacekeepers, not warriors," Yun-Ki said. "We want to go home." "The Morvellians control all ways off this planet," Shori explained. "But perhaps we can help each other." Yun-Ki didn't like the calculating look in the commander's eyes. "How?" "We need to evacuate more civilians from the northern sector. Our military units have failed 3 times. But your unusual tactics might succeed." "We're not mercenaries," Yun-Ki said firmly. "We won't fight your war." "Not asking you to fight," Shori replied. "Just help save lives. In return, we will help you contact your people." Yun-Ki looked at her team. Haynul was already helping an Atraxian child with a minor wound. Yuri nodded slightly. Ta-1 looked doubtful, but didn't object. "We'll help with the evacuation," Yun-Ki decided, "but we are not taking sides in this conflict." Shori made that strange gesture again. "Understood. Though I must warn you, the Morvellians now have images of you from their fallen soldiers' devices. They are very interested in finding you." "Why?" Ta-1 asked. "Because you did what our best fighters could not," Shori said simply. "And that makes humans very valuable in this war." Yun-Ki felt a chill. This was exactly what she had feared. "We're not weapons to be used." "No," Shori agreed. "You are much more dangerous than weapons. You are unpredictable." "They're coming." 3 transport ships. Haynul called out from his lookout position. Yun-Ki checked her weapon one last time. The evacuation mission had gone well for the first 2 days. They had helped over 100 Atraxian civilians escape the war zone. But now everything was about to get much harder. Morvellian elite forces, Commander Shori confirmed, looking at the approaching ships through a viewing device. They'd rarely deploy these units except for high-value targets. Like us, Ta-1 said grimly. Yun-Ki knew he was right. The Morvellians weren't just trying to win this sector anymore. They were hunting humans specifically. We need to change our plan, she told Shori. Split up the civilian groups. Make them smaller and harder to track. The Atraxian commander nodded. A good strategy. But who will lead each group? Your soldiers will lead most of them, Yun-Ki decided. My team will create a diversion. Yuri, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Captain, I intercepted their communications. They're using some kind of heat-tracking technology to find us. Human body temperature is different from Atraxians. That's how they keep finding us, Haynul realized. A loud explosion shook the building they were using as a temporary base. Dust fell from the ceiling. No more time for planning, Yun-Ki said. Everyone move now. The evacuation began in chaos. Atraxian soldiers led groups of civilians through underground tunnels while the human team prepared their diversion. These should work, Haynul said, handing out small devices he had modified. They'll mask our body heat for about 30 minutes. Yun-Ki nodded. Good work. Now let's. A section of the ceiling collapsed. Through the hole, a Morvellian drop pod crashed into the room. It opened to reveal 6 soldiers in black armor. Elite forces, Shori warned. Very dangerous. The fight was intense but brief. The Morvellian elites moved faster than regular soldiers, but still not as fast as humans. Yun-Ki and Ta-1 attacked from both sides, while Yuri provided covering fire with an Atraxian weapon. Haynul was helping the last civilians escape when a Morvellian blast hit him in the shoulder. He fell with a cry of pain. Haynul, Yun-Ki shouted, running to him through the firefight. She dragged him behind cover just as more blasts hit where he had been. I'm okay, he said through gritted teeth. Just a burn. It was worse than a burn. The blast had gone deep, and he was losing blood quickly. Yun-Ki made a hard decision. Shori, she called to the Atraxian commander. We need your medical help now. This changes our agreement, Shori said, helping her move Haynul. I know, Yun-Ki replied. We'll help you more directly, but only to save lives, not to win your war. With Haynul injured, Yun-Ki had no choice but to accept more support from the Atraxians. They retreated to a well-defended Atraxian base, where Haynul could receive proper medical care. As alien doctors worked on Haynul, Shori approached Yun-Ki with a data device. The Morvellians have committed 3 more battle groups to this sector, the commander said. They are not just trying to win anymore. They want to capture you. Yun-Ki looked at the tactical display. Their supply lines are extended. Vulnerable. Shori watched her carefully. You see it too. With small strikes here, here, and here, we could cut off their forces completely. That would be taking sides in your war, Yun-Ki said. You already have, Shori replied, by saving our people. Yun-Ki knew the Atraxian was right. There was no neutral ground anymore, and with Haynul injured, their priority had to be ending this conflict quickly. I'll help plan the strikes, she decided, but we do it my way. What began as a rescue operation became something more. Using minimal resources and surprise attacks, Yun-Ki designed a strategy that crippled the Morvellian supply lines within days. Other alien commanders watched with growing interest. The humans had changed the game. They were not just strong or clever, they were something new to this war. Something frightening. 2 weeks had passed since Haynul's injury. He was recovering well, thanks to the advanced Atraxian medical technology. The war in this sector had changed dramatically. Yun-Ki stood in the command center of the Atraxian base, looking at a large map showing troop movements. Her simple strategies had worked better than anyone expected. The Morvellians were now on the defensive, struggling to maintain their positions. Captain Lee, said a voice behind her. Ki turned to see an Atraxian she didn't recognize. This one wore elaborate robes instead of military gear. "I am Diplomat Troll," the Atraxian said with a small bow. "I bring visitors who wish to meet you." Ki tensed. What visitors? 3 aliens entered the room. Each looked completely different from Atraxians or Morvellians. One had green skin and 6 eyes. Another floated above the ground with tentacles waving gently below it. The third was small and covered in fur. "Representatives from the Galactic Council," Troll explained. "They have come to observe." Ki didn't like this. "We're not a zoo exhibit." The floating alien moved forward. "We apologize for the intrusion. I am Observer XO from the Vental Collective. We are here on diplomatic business." "What kind of diplomatic business happens in a war zone?" Ta-1 asked, joining Ki. His hand rested near his weapon. "The unusual kind," Observer XO replied. "We have received reports about your team's effectiveness." Ki crossed her arms. "We're just trying to survive and go home." By crippling a Morvellian battle fleet with 4 people and minimal resources. The green alien asked, its 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "The reports are not exaggerated," the furry alien said quietly. "Fascinating." Ki felt like she was being studied, evaluated. She didn't trust these observers at all. Hanul limped into the room, his shoulder still bandaged. "Captain, we just got a transmission from Earth." This was the first contact they'd had with home since the crash. Ki turned to him immediately. "What did they say?" 3 other human teams have reported being approached by various factions," Hanul said. "All with offers of alliance or employment. Earth Command is concerned. They're recalling all diplomatic missions." The pieces fell into place in Ki's mind. "These aren't just observers," she said, looking at the 3 aliens. "They're recruiters." The furry alien had the grace to look embarrassed. "We prefer the term talent scouts." "We're not mercenaries," Ki said firmly. "Of course not," Observer XO agreed. "You are peacekeepers, but your skills could be valuable in maintaining peace elsewhere." Before Ki could respond, Commander Shori rushed into the room. "Captain Lee, Morvellian forces have launched a major offensive. They'd brought in their heaviest weapons." Ki looked at the map again. The Morvellians were pushing hard, using tactics she hadn't seen from them before. "They're adapting to our strategies," she realized. "This isn't just about winning a sector anymore. They're trying to prove they can beat humans." The 3 council representatives watched with great interest as Ki began giving orders, reorganizing the Atraxian defenses. "You see how quickly she analyzes and responds." The green alien whispered to its companions. "Imagine what a full human military unit could do. Imagine what they could do if they were working for us instead of our enemies," the furry one replied. Ta-1 overheard them and shook his head in disgust. "This is exactly what we didn't want," he told Ki. "We're becoming weapons in their eyes." Ki nodded grimly. "And weapons get used." She looked at Commander Shori. "We need to end this conflict and get off this planet. Now." "How?" Shori asked. Ki's face hardened. "By showing them exactly why humans should not be involved in alien wars." The observer from the Vental Collective drifted closer, its tentacles swaying with excitement. "And how will you do that, Captain Lee?" Ki met its gaze coldly. "By escalating beyond what either side is prepared for." Captain Jun-Ho Park shifted uncomfortably as he listened to the heated debate. The emergency council session had been going on for hours. Representatives from 17 different alien civilizations argued about humans and their role in galactic affairs. The Atraxian-Morvellian conflict ended 3 days after humans became directly involved, said Representative Thex, the green-scaled alien who had spoken at the previous meeting. "We cannot ignore such effectiveness." "Effectiveness," another representative shouted. "They destroyed half a Morvellian fleet." Jun-Ho remained silent. Earth's official position was clear. Humanity would not serve as mercenaries for any alien faction. But some council members refused to accept this. Individual humans should be free to choose their own path, argued a tall, thin alien with glowing spots on its skin. If they wish to offer their services, why should we stop them? Because they don't understand what they're offering, Jun-Ho finally said, standing up. All eyes turned to him. Humans are not weapons to be pointed at your enemies. Representative Thex waved a dismissive hand. Pretty words from an official representative. But we have reports of humans already accepting positions with various factions. This was true, and Jun-Ho knew it. Despite Earth's attempts to recall all diplomatic missions, some humans had gone missing, presumably hired by alien groups. That is exactly why we called this emergency session, Jun-Ho replied. Any attempt to recruit humans into alien conflicts will be considered a hostile act against Earth. The council chamber erupted in angry shouts and arguments. Some representatives seemed outraged, others calculating. Grand Emissary Velox tried to restore order, but the noise only grew louder. Then, a strange sound cut through the chaos. It was like a bell, but deeper, more resonant. Everyone fell silent. An ancient-looking alien had risen from a seat in the back of the chamber. This species was rarely seen at council meetings. The alien moved slowly to the center of the room, supporting itself with a staff made of some unknown material. The Xender Collective requests permission to speak, announced Grand Emissary Velox, his voice filled with surprise and respect. The old alien looked around the room with eyes that seemed to see beyond the present moment. I am Elder Kyle of the Xender Collective, the alien said in a voice that was surprisingly strong. We have remained silent on this matter until now, but we can no longer watch history repeat itself. The chamber was completely quiet. Even the most argumentative representatives listened with respect. Twice before in the long history of our galaxy, warlike species were introduced to interstellar conflicts as mercenaries. Elder Kyle continued. The first were the Draconians, 8,000 years ago. The second were the Vex, 3,000 years ago. Does anyone here remember these names? No one spoke. You do not remember them because both species are gone. But before they disappeared, they carved bloody paths through the galaxy. They began as mercenaries. They ended as conquerors. Elder Kyle turned to look directly at Jun-Ho. But humans are different, and that makes them more dangerous. You do not understand them. They are not simply strong or clever. They are forged by a homeworld that has tried to kill them at every turn. Their entire history is learning to survive against impossible odds. The elder moved to the center of the chamber, addressing all the representatives now. The human who led the team in the Atraxian-Morvellian conflict ended the war in 3 days. Not through superior technology or numbers, but through what humans call asymmetric warfare. She turned the environment itself into a weapon. She made the enemy afraid to fight. This is not a capability you want turned against you. Representative Thex leaned forward. Are you suggesting we should fear humans, Elder? I am suggesting, Elder Kyle replied softly, that you should fear what humans become when they are threatened, because that is when they are most dangerous. Jun-Ho watched as the council members' attitudes visibly shifted. The elder's words carried weight that his own could not. We should vote, Grand Emissary Velox said after a moment of silence. On the motion to prohibit the recruitment of humans for military purposes. The council has voted, Grand Emissary Velox announced after the tally was complete. By a majority of 11-6, with no abstentions, the motion to prohibit the recruitment of humans for military purposes is approved. Jun-Ho felt a wave of relief wash over him. It had been close, too close. He noticed several representatives who had voted against the motion exchanging meaningful glances. This wasn't over. As the council session ended, the representatives began to file out of the chamber. Jun-Ho gathered his documents, preparing to send a report back to Earth. A shadow fell across his table. Captain Park, said Grand Emissary Velox, a word in private, if you please. Junho followed Velox to a small room off the main chamber. The tall alien closed the door behind them. "You should know that this vote does not end the matter," Velox said without preamble. "Several species still see humans as assets. We won't be used as weapons," Junho replied firmly. Velox's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "You misunderstand, Captain. It is not your strength that interests them most. It is not even your adaptability or your intelligence. Then what? It is your capacity for escalation." Velox moved closer, lowering his voice. "Most species have natural limits to conflict, points beyond which they will not go. Humans do not seem to have these limits." Junho started to object, but Velox continued. "Your Captain Lee ended the Atraxian-Morvellian conflict by threatening something neither side was prepared for: total war. When faced with the choice between retreat and destruction, they chose retreat. That's called deterrence," Junho said. "That is called terror," Velox corrected. "And it is very effective." A soft chime sounded. Junho checked his communication device and felt a surge of relief. "Captain Lee and her team have been successfully extracted," he told Velox. "They're on their way home." "Good," said Velox. "But others will try again. Some species are already developing training programs based on what they observe from your people." Junho frowned. "Training their own soldiers to fight like humans?" "Yes, though I doubt they will succeed. Your history has shaped you in ways they cannot replicate." Velox moved to the door, but paused before opening it. "Your species' official position against serving as mercenaries is wise. I hope your people maintain it." "We will," Junho promised. As Junho returned to his quarters to prepare for departure, he received another message. The images showed several alien military vessels conducting unusual maneuvers near the council station. He recognized the designs. They belonged to 3 of the species that had voted against the prohibition. They were practicing new tactics, human tactics. Junho began drafting 2 messages. The first was his official report to Earth about the Council's decision. The second was a private message to Earth's Defense Command. The Council had voted to keep humans out of alien wars. But Junho knew some would ignore that ruling. Despite the warning, despite the vote, some would still try to involve humans in their conflicts. As he finished his messages, a final communication arrived from Captain Unki Lee. "Returning home with all team members. Haynul recovering well. We showed them why humans should be left alone. But they were watching too closely, learning too much. This isn't over, Captain Park. They won't stop trying to use us. Make sure Earth is ready." Junho looked out his viewport at the stars. Humanity had only just joined the galactic community. They had so much to learn, so much to gain from peaceful cooperation with other species. But some would only see weapons when they looked at humans. He finished his second message with a simple recommendation: prepare contingency plans. Some will not heed the warning. The Galactic Council had been warned about involving humans in their wars. But Junho knew that warnings were not always enough. The end.